The Galactic Council chamber was a place of impossible scale. Carved into the hollowed core of a dead star, the chamber floated in eternal night, bathed in the glow of captured stellar plasma that streamed like molten rivers across the walls. Delegates of 1,000 worlds gathered there in a circle so vast that sound took seconds to travel from one end to the other. Hollow emitters projected their forms, some insectoid, some crystalline, some so alien they looked like shifting storms of light. And in the very heart of this great circle, there was one seat that no one occupied. Its nameplate gleamed with two simple words, inscribed in the common tongue and in the blunt alphabet of its owners. Humanity, Earth. 60 years it had sat there, empty. At first, the council had made excuses. Perhaps the humans did not understand the summons, or perhaps their technology was too primitive to send a delegate. But when decades passed, when every message was met with silence, excuses turned to anger. Tonight, that anger was palpable. Counselor Vethar of the Dravath Combine uncoiled his serpentine body, his scales glinting in the star's dim light. His slit-pupiled eyes narrowed as he gestured toward the empty seat with his tail. "This cannot continue," he hissed, his voice carrying across the chamber. "For 60 cycles, humanity has ignored every call, every invitation, every warning. And yet they prospered, building fleets, expanding their colonies, and enjoying the protection of trade routes we maintain. If they will not join the council, then perhaps they should be stripped of those protections." Ripples of agreement rolled across the chamber. Chittering voices clicked in approval, luminous beings pulsed with sharp light. "Or perhaps," croaked Counselor Drill of the Velkin hierarchy, his frilled crest rising, "they simply lack the strength to take their place among us. Perhaps their silence is not defiance, but fear." A thin, cruel sound spread through the hall, laughter, or the alien equivalent of it. And then, the lights dimmed. Every delegate turned as the chamber's emergency systems activated. Hollow projectors sparked to life, casting a single figure into the center of the circle right above the empty human seat. It was a man. Mid-40s, clean-cut, his black uniform crisp and severe. A silver insignia gleamed on his chest, shaped like a stylized planet encircled by a ring of steel. His expression was calm, too calm, as if he had waited a lifetime for this moment. When he spoke, his voice was steady and commanding, amplified until it filled the entire chamber. "Counselors," he said. "My name is Admiral Marcus Hale, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Network." A wave of shock rippled through the assembly. Some delegates leaned forward in disbelief, others recoiled. Humanity had never spoken at a council session. Not once. "Earth has heard your summons," Hale continued. "Every one of them. We have chosen silence, not because we were weak, not because we were afraid, but because we were preparing." The hollow shifted. The chamber gasped. Behind Hale, a colossal hangar stretched into infinity, filled with row upon row of titans. Humanoid machines, towering 30 feet tall, armored in black and silver plating that gleamed under floodlights. Their shoulders bristled with missile pods, their arms mounted with cannons and energy blades. Their eyes, glowing reactor cores, burned with cold light. Thousands stood in perfect formation, motionless, like statues waiting for a single word to awaken them. "These," Hale said, his voice echoing like a drumbeat, "are the Steel Legions. Forged for one purpose, to end wars before they begin." A nervous tremor passed through the chamber. "You have debated," Hale said. "You have compromised. And in your delay, trillions have died on frontier worlds. Humanity will not debate. Humanity will not compromise. We will act." The hollow feed cut. For several seconds, the chamber was silent, the only sound the distant hum of the captured star's plasma streams. Then the council erupted. Some shouted in outrage, others in fear. The Velkin delegate shrieked that this was a declaration of war. Counselor Tira of the Lyrini Ascendancy pulsed bright with approval and called it a promise of justice. The hall dissolved into chaos. Far away, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Marcus Hale stood in the command center of NORAD, hands clasped behind his back as holodisplays painted the room in shifting blue light. Captain Sarah Monroe approached from his left, datapad in hand. Her uniform was dusted with the grit of the hangar floor, her hair tied back in a severe knot. They'll be panicking now, she said. Hale's expression didn't change. Good. Counselor Vethar will call for sanctions, Monroe said. Maybe even a united fleet. Then let them, Hale said. He turned, facing the vast holomap of the galaxy projected before him, where dozens of red flares marked wreathed Dominion conquests creeping across the frontier. They'd had decades to stop this slaughter. We're done waiting. Monroe hesitated, her voice lower now. And if they decide to make us their next enemy? Hale's gray eyes hardened. Then we show them what we've built. 3 days later, the galaxy received its first demonstration. The frontier world of Relis 4 had been under siege for months. Its cities were burning, its defense grid shattered. The Vreeth fleet above the planet had begun the final bombardment. And then, without warning, a single Terran warship dropped out of FTL. Witnesses would later say the Terran ship did not broadcast warnings, did not open negotiations. It simply opened its drop bays. The Steel Legions fell like a storm. The battle footage spread across the galaxy within hours. The machines landed with thunderous impacts, their metal feet cratering streets and shaking the ruins of the city. Their heavy cannons spun to life, belching streams of white-hot plasma. Vreeth tanks were turned into molten slag. Infantry lines broke and fled as the legions advanced with mechanical precision, never stopping, never hesitating. When the last Vreeth stronghold was breached, the recording captured a single transmission broadcast on every frequency. You will not advance. And then, silence. Relis 4 was free. Back in NORAD's command center, Hale watched the battle recording playback one last time. His face was calm, but his jaw was set with grim resolve. They'll come for us now, Monroe said softly. Yes, Hale said. And when they do, we will be ready. He looked toward the massive doors of the hangar beyond the glass wall, where another Legion battalion was being assembled. Their reactor cores pulsed like the heartbeat of giants. The march has begun, Hale said quietly. And the galaxy will never forget the sound. Outside, the ground rumbled as the next wave of Steel Legions powered up. The echo of their synchronized footfalls rolled through the mountains like distant thunder, a warning to anyone listening. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. The moment Admiral Marcus Hale's transmission ended, a storm of voices rose from every tier of the hall. The sound was deafening, chittering, hissing, booming, until the entire chamber became a wall of noise. Holoscreens blazed with incoming reports from the frontier. Relis 4 had been liberated. The Vreeth fleet was in ruins. The recordings showed steel giants striding through fire and smoke, their reactor cores glowing like blue suns, their weapons carving through enemy armor with inhuman precision. The footage played again and again as delegates tried to comprehend what they were seeing. This is unacceptable. Counselor Vethar roared, slamming his coiled tail against the polished floor. Humanity acted without council authorization. They have deployed weapons of war that violated dozen accords. They acted because we did not, replied Counselor Tira, the Lyrini Ascendancy's luminous delegate. Her light pulsed brightly in agitation. Relis 4 begged us for help. We debated for half a cycle while its cities burned. Humanity acted and saved them. Humanity acted without permission. Vethar hissed. If every world did the same, there would be anarchy. They must be brought to heel before they disrupt the order of the galaxy. The chamber's presiding voice boomed through the noise, calling for order. A vote was called. And when it ended, the verdict was clear. The Council would assemble a coalition fleet. Officially, it was to observe Earth's operations and prevent escalation. Unofficially, it was a show of force. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Terran Defense Network's command center pulsed with activity. Admiral Marcus Hale stood at the center of the war room, watching as tactical holograms displayed the growing storm of coalition fleet movements. Captain Sarah Monroe strode up the stairs toward him, datapad in hand. We've confirmed it, sir, she said grimly. 4 major powers and 3 minor ones have pledged ships. Coalition fleets are massing in the Helios expanse. How many? Hale asked. Over 200 confirmed vessels, Monroe said. carriers, cruisers, and at least a dozen dreadnoughts. Hale's face was carved from stone. How long until they're ready? 2 weeks at most. Monroe hesitated. Their stated goal is containment. They want to hit us before we can deploy the legions on another world. Hale turned away from the display, his boots ringing against the deck as he crossed to the observation glass overlooking the hangar. Below, a full battalion of steel legions stood lined in perfect formation, their reactor cores glowing faintly. Engineers swarmed between their legs, sealing plating, running last-minute checks. They still think this is a negotiation, Hale said quietly. That they can frighten us back into silence. Monroe glanced at him, her jaw tight. Are they wrong? No, Hale's eyes hardened. But they're about to find out what silence was protecting them from. The TSV Resolute, Earth's flagship, slid through the dark between stars like a shark through black water. Its armored hull bore no markings save for the Terran defense insignia, a planet encircled by a steel ring, and the faint blue glow of its drives. Colonel David Mercer, commander of the 3rd Steel Legion, stood in the operations center, reviewing combat recordings from Relas 4. The holo-displayed Legion units tearing through Vreeth lines, their movements efficient, almost graceful. They're still underestimating us, Mercer said without looking up. The Council thinks we built the Legions as a deterrent. They think we won't use them unless cornered. Admiral Hale entered the room, hands clasped behind his back. Then they haven't been paying attention, he said. Mercer turned to face him, a grim smile on his scarred face. Then give the order, Admiral. Let us show them what these machines were really built for. Hale regarded him for a long moment. You'll get your chance soon enough, Colonel. That chance came 3 days later in the Velos Rift. A coalition scouting flotilla, 6 cruisers, 2 carriers, and their escorts crossed into Terran-claimed space. The Resolute and its strike group were waiting. On the bridge, Monroe reported calmly, Coalition flotilla is hailing us. Put them through, Hale said. A reptilian face appeared on the holo, its crest rising in what passed for anger. Terran vessel, you are operating outside authorized space. By order of the Galactic Council, stand down and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Hale's expression didn't change. This is Terran space, he said. Turn back. There is no Terran space, the Coalition commander snapped. You are subject to Council law. Hale's reply was calm, almost gentle. Not anymore. The transmission cut. A long beat of silence passed on the bridge. Then Hale gave the order. Engage. The Resolute's guns fired first rail cannon slugs that struck with relativistic velocity, tearing through the lead Coalition cruiser in a single, blinding flash. Then the Steel Legions launched. Drop pods screamed through the void, slamming into the hulls of Coalition ships like meteor strikes. The pods unfolded, and the Legions strode forth into vacuum, their magnetic clamps locking them to the decks. They cut through hull plating with plasma torches, forcing their way into corridors. Inside, the battle became a nightmare. Coalition Marines fought bravely and died in seconds. Legion units moved with terrifying coordination, their weapons precise, their shields flaring as enemy fire bounced harmlessly away. Those who survived told stories of booming, modulated voices echoing through the corridors. You are trespassing. You will not advance. When the last Coalition ship was silent, the Terran strike group withdrew, leaving only wreckage drifting in the void. The news reached the Council within hours. This time, there was no debate. Even those who had defended humanity now sat in stunned silence as the battle recordings played. Counselor Vethar coiled tighter, his scales bristling. This is war, he spat. Earth has drawn first blood. Tira pulsed dimly, her light subdued. We brought our fleet to their borders, she said softly. We forced their hand. But the decision had already been made. Within the cycle, orders were sent. The full Coalition armada, nearly 500 ships, would assemble for a direct strike on Sol. In NORAD, Monroe stood at the observation deck, looking down at the massive hangar where legions were powering up for deployment. 500 ships, she said quietly. That's more firepower than we've ever faced. Good, Hale replied, stepping up beside her. That means we won't have to do this twice. He looked out at the legions below, their glowing eyes reflecting off the glass. When they come, he said, we will show them everything. Outside, the deep, resonant thrum of the legion's reactors filled the air, like the slow, steady beat of war drums. The storm was coming, and Earth would meet it head-on. The void above Sol was quiet. Too quiet. 500 coalition warships burned into real space at once, their emergence lighting the darkness like a chain of newborn stars. Carriers, dreadnoughts, battleships, the greatest armada assembled since the last Galactic War. They came in perfect formation, weapons hot, shields raised, ready to end the Terran threat before it could grow any larger. On the bridge of the TSV Resolute, Admiral Marcus Hale watched in silence as the tactical display filled with red markers. They're forming a battle line, Captain Sarah Monroe reported, her voice low. They're hailing us. Hale nodded once. Put them through. The holo sprang to life, displaying the image of High Marshal Krex of the Dravath Combine. His scaled face filled the view, his fanged maw twisted into a grimace. Admiral Hale, Krex hissed, his voice thick with satisfaction, you stand accused of violating galactic law and waging unauthorized war. Surrender your fleets, deactivate these machines of yours, and submit to Council authority. Do so, and your people may yet be spared annihilation. Hale's face was carved from stone. His voice, when it came, was calm. No. The channel cut. For a single heartbeat, there was only silence, the deep, terrible silence before a storm breaks. Then the void erupted. The coalition fired first. Plasma torpedoes and beam lances turned the darkness into a field of burning light, a wall of death screaming toward Earth. And then the sky answered. The Terran defense network roared to life. Orbital platforms hidden in the shadow of the moon swung into position, their rail cannons firing in perfect, merciless rhythm. Hypervelocity slugs streaked across space, tearing through torpedoes, punching through dreadnought shields, gutting cruisers in single shots. Platform grid holding, Monroe reported. Her voice was steady, but her knuckles were white around the console edge. Maintain fire, Hale ordered. From behind Luna, the first of the Steel Legion carriers emerged, kilometer-long leviathans, their drives burning blue. Deploy the legions, Hale said, his voice almost reverent. Monroe gave the order. The carriers opened their bays, and the march of steel began. They came by the thousands. Legion drop pods screamed through the void, leaving trails of fire as they descended. They slammed into enemy hulls with the force of meteors, magnetic clamps locking them into place. The pods split open, and the legions strode forth. They moved without sound, without fear, weapons rising as one. Boarding charges blew, airlocks melted, and then the giants were inside. Inside the coalition ships, panic spread like wildfire. Alien Marines scrambled to defensive positions, shouting orders, firing down the corridors, but the legions were relentless. Plasma fire splashed harmlessly against their shields. Railguns tore through bulkheads and sent bodies tumbling in zero gravity. Every step they took was measured, unstoppable. Their voices boomed through the comm channels, through the ship speakers, even through the hull itself. You are trespassing. You will not advance. Entire decks went silent within minutes. One cruiser managed to broadcast a distress call before its reactor went critical, blossoming into a blue-white fireball that illuminated the battlefield. On the Resolute's bridge, Monroe's breath came quick. Admiral, their losses are catastrophic. We've taken out nearly a third of their fleet already. Hale's gaze stayed fixed on the tactical screen. Good, he said. Then they have seen enough to understand what's coming. And if they don't stop, she asked. Hale's eyes were hard as steel. Then we finish it. The coalition tried to regroup, tried to rally their dreadnoughts for a concentrated counterattack. But the Terran response was already in motion. From deep orbit, long-range mass drivers fired, sending tungsten rods screaming toward the largest ships. The impact shattered shields, cored entire hulls, and left tumbling wrecks where mighty flagships had once been. Drone swarms filled the void, thousands of autonomous hunter-killers weaving through enemy formations, striking engines and weapon emplacements with surgical precision. The battle became a slaughter. At last, the surviving coalition commanders broke. A single transmission came through, relayed across all channels. Cease fire. We surrender. The words hung in the air like a final gunshot. Hale stood silent for a long moment, then gave the order. Cease fire. Recover the legions. One by one, the guns of the Terran defense network fell silent. The surviving coalition vessels powered down their weapons, their shields flickering and dying as their crews waited, terrified, to see if the Terrans would finish the job. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council met again. This time, the once empty human seat was not empty. Admiral Marcus Hale entered the chamber flanked by 2 Steel Legion escorts, their heavy footfalls echoing through the hall like war drums. Every delegate fell silent as he took his place at the table. You summoned humanity, Hale said, his voice carrying with quiet power. You demanded that we join your council. We are here now not as petitioners, but as equals. He placed a data crystal on the table. Its glow filled the chamber. These are the terms. A new defense charter, one that acts when action is needed. One that does not wait for permission while civilizations burn. And if we refuse? Counselor Vethar hissed, though his coils trembled. Hale met his gaze, his voice like a blade. Then you will face the march of the Steel Legions again. And next time, we will not leave survivors. Silence. Then, one by one, the delegates activated their signets. The new charter was ratified. Hale stood, nodded once, and turned to leave. The legions followed him out, their footfalls heavy and deliberate. Later, aboard the Resolute, Monroe stood at the observation window, looking down at Earth below, blue, alive, untouched by war. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. Hale joined her, his reflection solemn in the glass. They won't come here again, he said. Not for war. Not for conquest. They know what waits for them if they try. Monroe nodded slowly. And the legions? They'll march again, Hale said. But next time, not to terrify. Next time, to protect. Outside, in the hangars, the Steel Legion stood in perfect rows, their reactor cores glowing faintly not as weapons, but as silent sentinels. The galaxy had called Earth to account. And Earth had answered. The sound of the March of Steel would echo in the stars for centuries to come.